Welcome to You're Cordially Invited, the show that brings you candid and informal interviews with some of the best wedding professionals in the Washington, D.C. metro area. We hope that you enjoy the show, and at the end, we hope that we have inspired you to take these individuals along on your next social affair. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of You're Cordially Invited. Today in our studio, we have a godsend. I must say a godsend, because as a wedding planner, this is the person that you need to call on every single time your clients tell you that they're inviting children to their wedding. It's not a bad thing, but it is a good thing to have the services of Miss Lisa Werth from Nannytainment. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, Tara.
Thank you for joining us today. So, Nannytainment. What is Nannytainment?
Nannytainment is an on-site event childcare company, and we go wherever people are having their events, whether it's a hotel, a vineyard, a country club, and we come in and we set up a childcare space and watch all of the children of the guests, so that the adults get to kick back and do their own thing and not worry about their kids, and their kids get to have their own party as well. And
the wedding planner doesn't have to worry about anything.
Right.
The venues don't have to worry about anything.
I've had some wedding planners say to me that they've ended up being babysitters at times. So
and we do.
Yes.
We definitely do. I can definitely vouch for that. And as far as the word Nannytainment, how did you get into this business of providing childcare for the event industry?
It happened a long time ago, the seed that was planted, and it was my own sister who was invited to her sister-in-law's wedding, and she had a 2-year-old son who was needed for pictures. And so she was hoping she was going to go to this adult-only affair, and the grandparents nixed that. And she said, okay, you're coming along and watching him when he doesn't need to be in photos. So that happened a long time ago. And then through college and other experiences, I worked in hotels, and I saw hotel childcare happen. And then a few years ago, a family asked me to watch their child, and they were so nervous because they were coming in out of town. They hadn't met me, I hadn't met them, and I guess that's when it came to fruition.
Okay.
And realized I'm going to create this company.
Okay. And as far as so that parents out there or other wedding professionals that are coming along to hire your services, kind of tell them a little bit about your background and the staff that works for you, so that they will know that they are certified to do.
Okay. My background is I worked in, I went to school for theater, and then I did a lot of teaching of community youth theater. In addition to doing that, I worked in child care centers and learned a lot about how child care centers operate and how to teach as well. And I've taken coursework as well, close to 400 clock hours in early childhood education and child development and behavior modification. And on my team are former child care center directors, there are former teachers, there's current teachers and current child care workers and current other recreation type people, plus nannies as well. And all of these people have wonderful qualifications, including 2 pediatric nurses.
Oh, wow. That is very, very nice to have on hand in case they get sick. Or, Okay. All right.
Yes.
And as far as I have some clients that'll say, oh, well, my little cousin that's 16, she's going to, watch the kids. What are some of the pros and cons rather than having a 16-year-old to watch these groups of kids rather than the services of Nannytainment?
One of the big things that is happening now is more and more venues are asking for insured child care to come on site. Even today I had another venue contact me and say, oh, we saw you online and we want to have somebody that we can refer our guests to. Are you insured? And I said, yes, we are. And they're like, great, because otherwise it becomes a liability if they hand out random names. And likewise, I think back to my own childhood or even my teen years when I was this like super babysitter, is my own cousins would undermine my authority and test me. And there wasn't a wide age gap between them and I, and of course I'm a short person, and so my height too. And so, you know, this is a day where you have spent a lot of money on a dress, on a cake, on a venue, and this is hopefully your only time you're getting married. Spend a little bit extra and hire the qualified company that's going to come in with the toys and the games and the books and stuff. Because yes, well, I did this as a teenager. I wasn't thinking of this at all. And this is just something that's added to what we do.
So it's event day, wedding day. Take us through the process as far as kids being dropped off to the end of the night.
Okay. Well, usually our process starts ahead of time because we need to know about allergies. Because if we all of a sudden get into the event and this kid says, I have a dairy allergy or I have a nut allergy, that throws everything into a tailspin because it's like, what do you feed this child? So we actually ask for registration forms ahead of time. We'll look at this information, we'll call our bride or our wedding planner or whoever and say, okay, we need to come up with a substitution here. And then there can factor into, like, if we have the babies, what do we do about the pack and plays and the cribs and things like that? So all of those logistics are worried about and thought through in advance, and so everything's smoother on wedding day. And so we arrive usually about a half hour to an hour before the wedding, and we set up our table. And we want it appealing because otherwise the children can feel like, oh, we've just been dumped with the babysitters. And so if we make it look like we've thought of them, and have something that's more attractive than that formal dining room, then they're going to want to stay with us.
So you come with all of this?
We come with all of this. Like this particular theme is a ring bearers football theme table. I've been seeing weddings on football themes lately, so I'm like, great, I'll go with it. And so yeah, we'll do different themes based on colors or what the bride and groom tell us, so we'll try and incorporate that in too. And so the parents come in and they register, or they sign their children in, and we usually have our staff pre-assigned as to what ages they're going to be watching if it's a group situation. And then we have our own schedule of things we do. And incorporated into that schedule is when they're getting served their dinner, and if they're allowed to go to the cake cutting, or if the cake's coming to them, and if they're allowed to come to the reception for the dancing, then we let the parents know at what time they're allowed to go back in.
And as far as staffing for these types of events, how do you determine like how many of your staff members per how many children?
Okay, our insurance helped us dictate what we needed to have for ratios of caregivers, and what we had to do was look at what National Child Care Organization suggested for recommended ratios for ages of children and how many caregivers based on the number of children that were in the group. And then some of these organizations said, okay, keep in mind special circumstances. Well, Event Childcare is a special circumstance because it's not like a childcare space where you walked in and everything's baby-proofed, is we have to improvise a lot. So our numbers go a little bit lower than even those standards. And so we operate a pretty controlled atmosphere because of that. A lot of my staff says this is very fun. This is easier than their day jobs type of thing, which is good.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And as far as, okay, the kids get signed in at the beginning of the night and then they get signed out. So is it anyone that can sign them out, or you have a list of like who's that person?
Yes, that's part of the registration process, is that usually it's the parents that are going to be signing in or signing out. They can say other people on the list. All of those people still have to be over the age of 18.
Okay. And do you all check identification whenever they come in?
Usually what we have is our own security system related to their line number that they signed in on, and then we give them a card that it has a special label on it. And if it's a really big wedding or event, we have special ID bands.
Interesting.
As well.
Interesting. Okay. So say, for instance, the bride doesn't want to pay for your services, but then she says, oh, well, I have a couple of family members. They still want to bring their kids anyway. Can you go to their hotel room, or can you go to the special aunt's house that they are staying at to babysit their children?
Yes, we can go anywhere, and that does come up quite often where the brides aren't necessarily my client, it's their parents. which makes sense because that harkens back to my sister with her mother-in-law type of situation. It's the grandparents that want their entire family there. And so they become our client, or else the parents themselves will become our client. And yes, we can go to those hotel rooms, and yes, we've gone to the aunts and uncles and other places as well too.
And I see that with the items that you have brought here for display, I don't see any video games or anything like that. Ooh, about to tear up the display. I don't see any video games or anything like that. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, we are an unplugged company. We strive very hard to be, and there's a couple reasons why. Is because when you put in a particular video and you have children, say from 2 years old up to 12 years old, they're not all going to like the same thing. So then you still have to have a backup plan for the rest of the kids. If the TV is not properly mounted or there's wires, it becomes a liability because the kids could pull it down or trip over cords and knock it over. And because I have the staff that's teachers and the rec backgrounds and the nannies, in our day jobs we're not supposed to have the TVs on anyway. So we have all of the ideas already.
Right. So you're there to keep them fully engaged and fully entertained.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And how do you reassure the parents that their kids are safe with you?
Well, I think that a big part of that has to do with the type of insurance that we have, is that it's not just this blanket business insurance, it's a liability insurance, and we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get it. And so I let people know that, look, this is the requirements that my staff has to have. They have to have CPR, they have to be background checked, they have to have reference checked, and we go through that very comprehensively. We interview them, we call their places of employment to make sure they're working as a caregiver, and we also put them through our own orientation to work event childcare. There's a lot to learn about this. I started the company 2 years ago, and I'm realizing I could write a book.
Wow.
Just on this topic.
Wow. Okay.
Alone. And what I also do is, with my own family, I've gifted some of my nieces and nephews the childcare for their own weddings. And it becomes stressful knowing that I have to answer not just to their parents, but to their grandparents because they're my siblings. And it's like, who are these people? And so I tell that to the clients and the parents that I totally get it, and that this is a very family atmosphere.
Okay. And what are some of the do's and don'ts whenever the kids get dropped off? Like the parent may want to pack a little backpack or have their little favorite blankie.
Right. The blankets I encourage.
Okay. The
change of clothes I even encourage for the end of the night with the pajama thing, because that way they don't have to get them in and out of pajamas at 1 o'clock in the morning type of thing, if that's how late they happen to go. We need them to bring their own diapers and baby food if the children are that young. One of the big don'ts, and I have this list of 10 things that I tell parents before weddings, is the top one is don't make it sound like this is a bad thing. Because
don't put the negative feeling.
Right, is that this is exciting. You don't have to sit through a 3-course meal. You don't have to sit through toast. And that's how I explain it to the children all the time. It's like, okay, if you want to go do that, that's fine, but the toys are staying here. And I said, you got to make it positive. And with the registration form, I asked them to please read every question, because there's been a couple of times where the allergies have slipped through. And fortunately, the kids were verbal to say it. So that's the other big thing that's very important. And to don't come in saying, oh, this is what can happen. No, we have our own rules that we have to follow for the betterment of the entire team. And we're pretty, what I want to say, understanding of the situation, but we still need control.
Okay. All right. And as primary caregiver, what are some of your inspirations behind some of your themes that you come up with?
Sometimes it's the brides themselves that will give me some of the themes. Other times they don't give me a theme, and I live for themes because it allows me to focus in on what specifically to pull. So like when somebody said a sports theme, I could very narrow it down. Last fall, a bride said, oh, we just have a fall wedding. And I said, no, we're calling it Thankful for Love, because it was a couple weeks before Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
And so I did Total Harvest for her wedding. When my niece got married, she said fall theme too. It was right before Halloween. I said, no, Halloween party for the kids. And I find that it is important for the children themselves to come in and see that some theme was thought about for them as well.
Okay. It kind of makes them feel as if they're having their own private party,
Yes.
you know, kind of set the stage, say, oh, you know,
Right.
you're going to your own party. You
Right.
don't have to party with mom and dad.
Right.
You have your own party.
And I can say that this is something that the clients, even though they can start to see the photos on our Facebook page, it doesn't completely register until they get to the actual event and they walk into the room and they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah. So.
And what is it that you want your clients to feel or walk away from after booking Nannytainment?
I hope what they get out of booking us is peace of mind. That's the thing that we always go back to, is that when they have peace of mind and their children have peace of mind and the bride and groom, in the case of weddings, have peace of mind, everybody gets to relax and really enjoy the event. You know, I've seen children miserable at the dinners, and I think that's what inspired part of it too, is because once they become miserable, nobody's having fun. So
Wonderful, wonderful. And as far as your services, as far as the range, we're in the Washington, D.C. metro area. How far do you go out?
we are driving all the way over on the other side of the Chesapeake
Oh, wow.
in August. The venue that contacted me today is up in Baltimore. We're in 2 weeks, we're down in Orange. So we're starting to get calls. I had a bride ask me at a show last fall, would you consider coming to Philadelphia? So, yes.
All right. You got it. They go anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere that there are children, they will go.
Right. If they're ready to play, I mean, even my transportation, I can hire anywhere. And we're insured across the country, too.
And that's one of the great things about hiring a service like you. You are insured. Your staff is properly trained. They're properly certified. Whereas you get the young kid from down the street to babysit them, the attention span isn't there. You know,
Right.
they may be there for just a brief moment in mind, but with your services, you're there from start to finish.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And how far in advance should clients contact you for your services?
I would prefer, just because of some of my experiences with some of the venues that aren't necessarily kid-friendly, that as soon as they're starting to figure out that invitation list and then figuring out what venue to go to, if they see children are on their list, call us, because we're starting to get a feel for what venues are better equipped to handle children and which ones absolutely can't. While I say that, I can say a majority of our brides contact us within a month to 2 weeks before the wedding when those RSVPs come in. And then it's like, oh dear Lord, we have all of these kids coming, which is where our tagline comes from, is what are we going to do with the kids, is we're what you do with the kids.
Okay. And then do you go to the venue ahead of time to kind of like see what the room, the layout is?
Yes, I've learned to do that because I've been surprised in a few of the early events where I'm like, why did I agree to do this? Is it's glass walls or it's total open areas where it could be like 20 different ways of escape. So I like to now go in ahead of time, and if I don't like a particular room, I can say, okay, do you got something else? And then
Do you make them kind of like baby-proof the room, like sockets and things like that?
I know that it's a stretch to do that, and so that's one thing that we have done through our orientation is trained our staff as to how to do a spot baby proofing as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Well, Lisa, you have definitely enlightened us in the field of childcare for events and planners. You hear me? We no longer have to do this anymore. Wedding professionals, if you have your clients out there that are looking for some type of babysitting services, we have now a full-service firm in the Washington, D.C. area that does offer that. Miss Lisa Werth of Nannytainment, and she will be happy to serve anyone in the Washington, D.C. area, Chesapeake, Orange County, Philadelphia, anywhere. So thank you, Lisa, for joining us today. And how can clients reach you?
The best way to reach us, because we like the paper trail, is if they go to our website, nannytainment.com, there's a contact us page where they can start to fill out their request for what they need.
Okay. All right. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Nannytainment of the Washington, D.C. area. Thank you for joining us today, and we welcome you back to another episode of You're Cordially Invited.